Hello, my name is Juanajo, and welcome to my second podcast. This is just going to be a small podcast series that I'm making just for fun and, of course, experimenting with my content. Unfortunately, I'd prefer uploading more gameplay videos and all that, but I'm having a bit of a trouble with that because I want my quality for those videos to be a lot better instead of subpar, I guess you could say with anything or whatever. Um, so far gameplay videos are going to be stopping for the time being, unfortunately, because I'm going to try and focus on either getting the resolution up for those videos, considering that like my audio is going to sound a lot better nowadays, but I just want my resolution slash how my videos to come out look a lot better and not just the sound. Because if that's the case, that might as well be an ASMR channel or something, which, excuse me, I just won't be. I don't think I'll ever. Maybe I'll mess around with ASMR and make like one or two videos, but that's like to the extent of it. Because then, other than that, I really don't have anything else to experiment with ASMR for. Other uh, than that, welcome. Hopefully, you enjoy this podcast. A quick rundown of what I'm going to be using is just a regular Blue Yeti plugged into my Mac computer using these gaming headphones. I don't know the specification of ugh, of said gaming headphones. Excuse me. They're just a regular pair of headphones that you would buy for like maybe $20 or $50 with like the little mic that's on the side or whatever. If you know what these look like, leave it in the comments below. But other than that, I think that's everything out of the way. Um, of course, if you really do enjoy these videos, consider liking and subscribing. Nothing wrong with little subscribes here and there and a like button here and there too. um, if you want me to talk about a specific thing or voice my opinion on a certain topic, leave it in the comment section below. I don't not I I don't mind talking about it for a little bit, or if anything, make a whole podcast episode about it for just I just don't mind. um, Note that I'm probably going to be uploading my podcast series every week. So from here, another week, which will probably be like upcoming Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday for next week, I'll probably be uploading slash recording my podcast. Then I'm gonna try and keep a steady flow, and other than that, you're gonna hear that a lot. So hope that doesn't bother you. I think we're ready to go. Also, I do apologize if you do hear my AC unit in the background. It should be better here considering that I'm in a different, area that I'm recording at the moment. I'm not going to disclose my location, of course, but I'm recording not in my room. I'm recording in a different area, which is more spacious. So you shouldn't hear a lot of like bouncing voices and stuff falling all over the place. So maybe the AC is not too loud. Plus, my gain for the computer microphone is fairly low because I was experimenting with it on my own time. So maybe that helps. Plus, I have noise reduction on, while I'm recording this. So, uh, remember, like, comment, subscribe. Maybe your comment will be featured in the next podcast episode, and I can talk about it, for a short time, or maybe it could be the next topic for my next podcast series, or sorry, my next episode. But other than that, welcome, welcome. Hopefully you're having a great day. I'm having a pretty good day too myself. Nothing much has happened today. Uh, reading up on some news. I did some research for this podcast episode, of course. I have no idea what I'm going to title it yet. Maybe something like I want to be like an eye catcher, but at the same time, I don't want it to be too like I don't know, like weird. I guess, but uh, let's dive into this episode. Um, I do want to say that this episode on the podcast series is going to be talking about multiple topics of really whatever chose, whatever popped up to me in like my through my eyes, I guess, like caught my attention is a better way of saying it. But this the podcast is going to be talking about news related items or some things that like my girlfriend sent me that I was like I should probably talk about that in my next podcast. So here we are. Off the bat, we're gonna jump into the meat and potato things, but another little disclaimer, two disclaimers, I guess. Now, first off, this is not gonna be a proper podcast series, as in like your typical podcast series, as in like, you know, we're not gonna be doing a lot of scripts, even though I do have some scripts here. It's not gonna be a script all the time. Will it be some side notes that I could, point out to, prove my point or continue the conversation? Yes, I probably will have those a majority of the time, but it's not going to be full 100% scripted all the time, at least. For certain topics, maybe like my Fallout podcast, which you should check out. My Fallout Let's Talk Bethesda podcast, that was one of the first ever, my only podcast really, that was very much meticulous because I wanted it to be meticulous, and the fact that like I didn't want to talk about something, not have evidence, and then sound kind of stupid. Even though, again, that whole podcast is talking about my opinion on how Bethesda butchered the Fallout series. Which, again, if you haven't checked, haven't seen it, you should check it out after this one, or maybe you want to check that out before here. But reason why I'm pulling this up is because halfway of writing my notes for this podcast, literally last minute, my hand kind of got tired and kind of cramped because I hold the pen really tightly when I'm writing. Plus, I don't have a flat surface to copy it on. So, for the last couple of topics, I'm going to be using my phone. So, excuse me if there's either a long pause or I'm just talking about gibberish out of nowhere. It's because I'm trying to scroll through the information on my phone to see whether or not everything I have on here explains everything. Like right now, I'm gonna look through. Okay, we have everything set up. We're good. We're good. Okay. Anyways, the first topic we're gonna be talking about is a pretty tragic event that happened around a week ago from now. A poor 14-year-old boy, unfortunately, passed away due to an accident that happened at a park. Now, the park in particular is the Icon Park. Excuse me. Sorry if I'm butcher these names. I'm really sorry if I do butcher these names, but this happened around a week ago, and the location that happened at was the Icon Park, specifically around the free fall ride, which has a height to be at around 430 feet, or in metric 1.806 meters. Now, if you haven't caught up on the story or whatever, a poor kid, a 14-year-old kid, accidentally fell out of his chair when the ride. It's like if you don't know the ride that I'm talking about in particular, it's one of those rides that you see where people sit in a chair and it goes up just straight up. It's almost like a slingshot in a sense, but it's not like you're moving all over the place. It's literally just going up and down. But what ended up happening is this 14-year-old boy was strapped in his chair and went up the whole 430 feet. And halfway down, he slid out of his chair and unfortunately hit the ground. And to give you a perspective on how quick this whole ride is going, it's usually going around 75 miles per hour or 33.50 or 33.528 meters per second if you're, of course, with the metric system. Now, that's, I don't know about you guys, but 75 miles per hour, that's that's pretty dangerous. It's, of course, it's supposed to be dangerous, but knowing that you're safe behind the well thought out plan and construction of the amusement park or the attraction in general. But unfortunately, this 14-year-old kid accidentally slipped out of his chair halfway falling and fell on the pavement. Of course, if you Google this happening, you could find hundreds of videos all over the internet of this poor kid falling out of his chair. And in some videos, you can actually hear him slamming the ground, which personally, for me, when I heard that, it sent chills down my spine. It's a really tragic event. A 14-year-old kid, slamming on the pavement or whatever. And I was talking to a friend about this, and we both noticed something oddly enough, if you find the right video where it's not edited to cut out the part of him slamming the floor because of like, you know, um, I guess for children, um, for kids not to see the poor tragic event. But if you find the whole video, like on Instagram or Twitter, you could see that the coworkers rush in. I'm very liberal when I mean by rush in, because the coworkers more or less are in between of a speed walk and like a stroll when they approach the kid that's on the floor. I'm guessing unconscious, because I'm guessing by the, you're going at 75 miles per hour to a dead stop would hit your brain, like your brain would actually hit the inside of your skull, making you get a brain hemorrhage and possibly black out. But either way, I'm not too 100% sure. I didn't really go that deep onto the kid's condition on why. All I know from like articles I've read here and there was that the kid succumbed to his wounds during the hospital, so he passed away because of his injuries, unfortunately. But what I was saying was the staff walked in somewhat oddly, like calm. I understand you're supposed to be calm in a situation like this, but there's a for me, I find it very disturbing when someone's calm and then too calm, because these guys walked in very like ice cube cold calm. And if I was a bystander and I saw that they were so chill, it would get me angry slash like even more upset, because a poor kid literally fell out of a chair, hit the ground, and they nonchalantly walk in and not seem to be worried at all. Hello, like we're like, I'm sorry, what? You're not reacting to the situation at hand. In the video you could hear like four or five people screaming, and the kids who are on the, they're in their chairs for the riot are telling me, yo, like open the buckle or open the thing up. Like they were freaking out almost. And the coworkers slash employees were oddly calm. That's disturbing. I find that very disturbing, because with a situation like this where a kid is just mere feet away from you, possibly blacked out, passed out or whatever, and injured, how could you be calm? Like again, I know, you have to stay calm, but again, there's a very fine point of like you being calm but super nervous, but then too calm and not seeming to like be phased by it. And they were on that wrong side of like calm. And it freaked me out. And my friend said the same thing. They're like, they casually walk up on the scene and they're like, call like dude, what? They were way too calm for a situation this serious. It was very disturbing personally for me. It was really disturbing. Um, from my research, I said they added a new fence around the free fall area in place. The seat behind the black fence and the Simpsons family are still fighting to get the free fall shut down for good. Um, More context: the Sampson family is the family of the poor kid that died, like mother and daughter, and sister, not daughter. Sorry, the Sampson family, in short, want to close down this specific free fall thing for good, because a kid died. A kid passed away, unfortunately, which I totally agree wholeheartedly. Because you can't make something this big and this risky and not have proper safety precautions. Now, this idea is going to get thrown out the window because of something that happens later on in our discussion. But for now, I'm going to try and keep a steady pace and read through my little notes that I'm taking off you. Also, if you hear me flipping pages, just deal with it, please. I'm very sorry if me flipping pages to get to the right page, disturbs the flow and like your concentration on whether or not you're doing something. But um, please just go along with me. Um, on Tuesday, oh sorry, right? On Tuesday, the seats were lowered to ground level, and the chair number 27 was covered with a black plastic bag, or sorry, a black plastic appearing to be broken. Now, like my notes said, these are probably terrible like commentary and notes, but they put a fence, like in the notes, they put a fence around the free fall area, but I'm guessing the chairs were still halfway up and stuff. So they brought it down ground level so that nobody can see, you know, see the chairs or whatever, or point or whatever. Again, totally understandable. So they brought it down, and for chair number 27 has a black plastic over it, indicating, like in the notes, it's probably to be broken. Now, another quick thing that popped into my head: the free fall ride holds 30 people max. So only one chair, number 27, was the one covered with the uh, black plastic. Even though I don't understand how, I could kind of understand how it could be broken, but that's going to be brought up later in the discussion, because again, I have like almost 2 page. I probably have 2 pages worth of notes, and I want to go through them, at a steady pace. Plus, I want to stretch thing pretty this podcast to an hour, because it's only been 16 minutes and it feels like 20. But anyways, I digress. What is it? Also, sorry if I'm like huffing through my nose all the time. I'm kind of nasally at the moment. I'm not sick. I mean, I am kind of sick, but not that kind of sick. If people in the future are like hearing this or whatever, I'm like the next couple of years, this is happening during COVID. This is still COVID, even though it's been like 2 years since COVID came out. It's still wreaking havoc, and we're gonna talk about that later too. uh, the fencing crew. I'm gonna bring my notes over here. Sorry, give me a second. The fencing crew put up a black mesh blocking the view from people gathering around to add to the memorial for the 14-year-old and sign a petition to get the ride closed permanently. Excuse me. So, like the notes said, the crew who run slash operate the area to okay, I don't know if it's because I suck at reading and understanding text, but it doesn't make sense that the fencing crew put up a black mesh blocking the view from people gathering around to add to the memorial for the 14-year-old kid and sign a petition to get the ride closed permanently. Do they not want the ride to close permanently? Um, Again, I'm very sorry if this is like completely, it's supposed to be like basic sentences and it's completely flying over my head. I do apologize, because I could completely be misinterpreting this whole sentence here wrong, or paragraph, excuse me. I could be understanding it wrong and not give my proper opinion, or give a good opinion, to say the least. But from my, you know, Chad brain opinion, it's basically saying that they put again the mesh up so that people can't see. Also, they don't want people to sign the petition to close the amusement section permanently, or close the ride permanently, excuse me, for the 14-year-old boy that died. Which again, I could be again wholeheartedly understanding it wrong, and if that's the case, I'm very sorry. But if the case is that they say they put the mesh up just so that people don't see into the area, but then still have the petition out so that people who agree with the movement sign it to close it, then that's understandable. And frankly, I feel like that should be the right approach for this. Of course, um, at this point, it should have enough petitions and signatures to somewhat be a big notice for the companies and creators of this park ride. The family said the Simpsons tried to ride the slingshot and the star flyer. Excuse my language if that was a terrible pronunciation of that. And was told he was too big for both. This is I'm pulling this out of a website, by the way, like the news, like News and Wesh 2 or whatever. This is their direct quotes. he was also too heavy for freefall according to its operating manuals. They don't understand why they let him in. This is the controversy that I'm getting chills thinking about this. This is the thing that like popped into my brain while reading this. They knew he was too big to ride the amusement park. They or sorry the park, the ride, the free fall. They knew he was too big for it. Like there's a standard. And I was also talking about this to my friend. I'm like, for stuff like this where it's very dangerous, they have to have like plan A, B, all the way up to Z because something like this could completely close the whole park and cause massive disruption in the park management and all that. So I want to know if in the manual he was labeled as being too big and overall he don't understand why they let him in. What like who who's watching over this? Like I know jobs nowadays aren't that big of a deal in terms of like popularity and respect. Of course, unless this job is your favorite job and then, I'm guessing you love this job to death. But for people who are just doing the job because it's a job and they need to get paid, there's responsibility for these jobs. Like, how are you just gonna know the rules and completely ignore them or forget about them? I would personally, if this was my job, I would 100% try and somewhat keep a small manual with me or keep the most important parts of the manual in my head, of course. Then again, you could say that the whole manual is very important because it could teach you and or let you know that like specific people or like certain conditions or whatever can interfere with having a good experience on the ride and or can cause a casualty like right here. So overall, I don't understand how these people let the kid in or on. He he was like a red flag. How did they just completely ignore that? Or again, unless they didn't care enough to read up on the manual. Either way, this was still a big shocker for me when I read that. It literally like dropped my jaw to my table. You reading that one quotation sentence absolutely gave me chills and just overall wasn't. I was dumbfounded, dude. I was very much dumbfounded by that. Uh, Here we go. She would rather say no and hurt his feelings a bit and still see him live. She said, I was again. This is like, my hand was getting tired, but basically, someone said I would rather tell a kid no because of blank and hurt his feelings and see him live on to see another day than say sure, have him get on the ride and then something tragic happen. I feel like I would 100% agree with this. If anything, I would try and compensate by telling them, hey, to be honest, I'm gonna let you know, I'm a selfless person. I'm very selfless. The only times I'm greedy is when I'm hungry. I'm not usually greedy, or at least I try not to be greedy. But for this situation, I would tell the kid no, but then I'll try and compensate for it. Even though I'm guessing you're not supposed to like give something away to a customer or whatever. This is for their own safety after all. Either way, I would still feel bad saying no to a kid that just wanted to have a good time. But at the same time, I'm not gonna have a kid risk his life to have a good time when his life is on the line and maybe my job title is on the line. Not saying that you should put your job above people because it could be risky. I'm just saying that like for the sake of him and me, I would say no and then move on. Is what I'm trying to like convey my message to. Icon Park has ordered the Slingshot Group, which owns Freefall and the Slingshot, to shut down both rides until proven safe. This is another thing that caught my eye reading it, because these group, it's not like they're two separate groups. This is all under the same roof, same staff, controlling two different rides. And you're telling me none of them remembered about the manual, or none of them informed them that like, hey, this kid tried to ride this ride and he didn't fit. He didn't match the. He wasn't within the guidelines, So communication, where it at? We're like, where's it at? I'm genuinely asking because again, this whole situation could have been avoided if the guys over, or sorry, the group at the slingshot would have let them know, hey, there's a little kid. Um, if he has a name tag or if he gave his name, even though I don't think kids would give, or like a the kid in question would give his name out. But either way, a general description of like the kid in general could have been helpful to prevent this happening. Because again, if one of them knew the guidelines and or the manual and say like you have to be this and this between this and that or whatever, and he didn't match it, you could tell everybody else like, hey, there's a little kid, he can't ride this or that because he doesn't fall again within the safety guidelines and protocol. So I'm just really shocked overall that this park is very much lackluster when it comes to communication and safety. Even then, when I read up on this, my idea was that the creators of this free fall ride didn't pay much attention or add like a plan B to this, because I'm guessing if you've been on these rides before, you know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't know, you basically sit in a chair and this giant new buckle thing comes down and it's supposed to press on your chest and it's supposed to click a couple of times and you're supposed to be snug in the chair. You're not supposed to be tight because you're gonna feel suffocated and stuff, but you're not supposed to be super loose because of course you would just fall out. You're supposed to be like in the middle, like the Goldilocks zone. Either way, this contraption, which is like a giant, you has your whole torso exposed. Then again, it could add to the experience that like you can see the floor, but you don't touch anything, and you could have like a funner time. But again, overall, that that doesn't sound like it's not safe. It's just overall not safe because now again, this whole situation, in my opinion, could have been avoided if they added a little thing between the person in general. So, as in, like, you have the giant U thing, right? That'll go up to your chest or your stomach, but then there's another piece that latches on to, like, your chair. So, what ends up happening is, let's say you're not in the Goldilocks zone of being snug, and you're just shy of being loose because the coworkers let you on, even though you're a bit too big. You're a big, like I'm a big person, but anyways, let's say that the person in question is a bit too fluffy, and it didn't click enough times to keep them in the chair. Now, if they were to slip or fall, or I don't know, I guess they would get caught on that little support beam, rail, or whatever that's in between the chair and the U lock, basically preventing an accident from happening. Now, if this was implemented, would I think the kid would have been alive? Absolutely, 100%. Something as simple as adding like an iron, tube rail or whatever between the legs. Although I don't feel like male uh, customers will have a fun time if the pole is in an awkward position per se because of you know basically, because like when they, like, if they were to slip, that's like their manhood, like right on the line. Of course, would you sacrifice manhood to like save your life? Of course, but like either way, I would still have that over falling, unfortunately. But something as simple as like a giant rail in between someone's legs when the U buckle comes in would prevent something like that from happening, because as soon as they slip out of that chair and they're thinking they're gonna fall, they're they're gonna get caught on that. And worst case scenario, they're super skinny and they fall out of the U, right? Their leg could get caught on that, and that'll be just enough because the person in question could scream, or people, the crowd could spot that happening, and they could just say, hold on like a couple of more seconds, and they could lower that thing down just enough so that the person in question could suffer